Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 3 from class AM2363C are going to present about electronic waste toxic leakage. So you can meet our team members which consists of Syamimi Yasmin, DIANAH WAFIAH, ERIKA QISTINA, NADIAH INSYIRAH, SITI NISRINA and also NURUL NAJIHAH. So in our presentation, we are going to explain few elements. The first one is introduction to e-waste. Second one is cases of the issue. And the third one is we are going to do analysis of pollution in each country. And the fourth one is recommendation to overcome the issues. And also the fifth one is conclusion.
So now I will explain about the meaning of e-waste itself. So e-waste or electronic waste refers to discarded electrical or electronic devices that are broken, obsolete or no longer wanted. It is the world's fastest growing waste stream comprising items like computer, phones and appliances. E-waste contain hazardous materials such as lead and mercury that pose severe health and environmental risks if not recycled properly.
Let's look at the three countries that we are going to discuss about today. Firstly, we have developed country which is from United States, developing country from Thailand, and lastly, less developed country which is Nigeria. Therefore, let's dive into the first point which is cases of the issue.
Now, I will explain about the cases of the United States about toxic leakage. So, US produce around 8 million tons of e-waste every year, making it one of the largest e-waste producers in the world. This happens because many people frequently replace electronic devices such as phone, laptop, television, and other gadgets. However, only about 15 to 20% of e-waste is properly collected for recycling. The remaining waste is often dumped in landfills, burned or exported to the other countries. This can create serious environmental problems. Besides that, fuel and chemical leakage from recycling activities can also contaminate underground water resources. This pollution may harm aquatic life and reduce water quality for communities nearby. As shown in the graph and chart below, although recycling activities have increased over the years, the recycling rate is still low compared to the huge amount of e-waste generated in the US.
So now I'm going to explain to you e-waste issue that happened in developing country that we choose, which is Thailand. So Thailand has become a major destination for imported e-waste from the other country. Reports show that illegal e-waste import in Thailand previously reached around 30,000 to 40,000 tons annually. So in one enforcement case, authority also says more than 238 tons of illegal e-waste, and this situation actually increased the country's waste burden and made waste management more difficult. Many e-waste in Thailand are actually processed using unsafe methods like open burning and acid washing. And these methods actually release toxic chemicals into the air, soil and water, which can also harm the environment and human health. In addition, the volume of e-waste in Thailand is rapidly increasing. Thailand generated around 753 million kilograms of e-waste in 2022, and the amount is expected to continue increasing in the future. So therefore, stronger regulation, proper recycling system and public awareness are very important to solve this issue.
Next, let's look at the e-waste situation in Nigeria. Nigeria generates around 1.1 to 1.2 million tons of e-waste every year, and the amount is increasing rapidly due to the growing use of electronic devices such as phones, laptops, and home appliances. In fact, the rate is growing by about 20% annually. One major concern is about 90% of this e-waste is managed informally. This means many workers recycle or dismantle electronic waste using unsafe methods such as open burning and manual dismantling without proper protection. The main urban resources of local e-waste are cities like Lagos, Abuja, and Kano. Lagos is the largest hub for electronic usage and disposal, while Abuja and Kano also contribute due to rapid urbanization and increasing demand for technology. Besides local waste, Nigeria also receives imported e-waste from developed countries. According to News Al Jazeera, around 60,000 tons are imported every year and many devices are already unusable upon arriving. This creates a dual problem for Nigeria because they have to manage both local and imported e-waste.
Next, we are going to dive deeper into the analysis of each pollution in each country. The first analysis is regarding factors that contribute to e-waste toxic leakage.
Next, I will explain the factors contributing to e-waste toxic leakage in the United States. The first one is weak regulation on e-waste export. In the US, some electronic waste shipments are not fully controlled or properly monitored. Because of weak enforcement, illegal or untracked e-waste can be exported to the other countries. This causes unsafe handling and recycle process. As a result, toxic substances from electronic waste may leak into the soil and water, which can damage the environment and affect human health globally. Second one is releasing harmful chemical into the air and water. During the recycling or manufacturing process, factories may release toxic substances such as lead, mercury, and cadmium. This chemical can pollute nearby rivers, other groundwater, and even the air. People who live near interest areas may suffer health problems such as breathing difficulties, respiration disease, and water contamination issues.
So now I'm going to explain to you the factors that contribute to e-waste toxic leakage in Thailand. So the first factor is the weak enforcement of environmental law. This is said so because it happens due to limited monitoring and also lack of strict inspection in recycling sector in Thailand. Because of the weak enforcement, many informal recycling sector are able to process e-waste without following proper safety procedures, and as a result, toxic leakage can easily happen into the environment. The second factor is the use of low-cost recycling method. It is so because it is cheaper to process e-waste in developing countries like Thailand because the labor costs are lower and also environmental regulations are less strictly enforced. Of course, informal recycling is considered economically cheap, but it is not actually efficient. Small dismantle and scrap collectors often rely on cheap manual labor and avoid expensive treatment process in order to reduce the cost. However, these are unsafe practice because it can contribute to pollution and also toxic leakage.
Lastly, let's look at the main factors contributing to e-waste toxic leakage in Nigeria. The first factor is the lack of proper recycling infrastructure. Nigeria has limited formal recycling facilities, so much of the waste of e-waste is dumped or processed in unsafe conditions. As a result, toxic substances such as lead, mercury, and cadmium can leak into the soil, water, and air, causing serious pollution. The second factor is poverty, which lead many people to depend on informal recycling activities as a source of income. Workers often use unsafe methods like open burning or manual dismantling to recover valuable metals from electronic devices. Although these activities help generate income for low-income communities, they also release dangerous toxic fumes into the environment. Without proper safety equipment or regulations, both workers and nearby residents are exposed to these harmful chemicals.
Other than that, another analysis that we are going to dive deeper is the impact of e-waste toxic leakage.
For the social impact, e-waste toxic leakage affect human health and daily life. Toxic chemicals from electronic waste can pollute the air, water, and soil. According to WHO, exposure to chemicals like lead and mercury may cause breathing problems, skin disease, and nerve damage. People living near polluted areas may also face contaminated water supply and unsafe living conditions. For the economic impacts, e-waste toxic leakage causes high cleanup costs and financial losses. Government and companies need to spend $1 million to clean polluted areas and manage hazardous waste. According to UNITA, improper e-waste management also wastes valuable materials such as gold, copper, and silver that could actually be recycled and reused. For the environment impact, e-waste pollution is transferred to other countries. The United States export a large amount of electronic waste to developing countries such as Malaysia and Thailand. According to the Basel Action Network, many of these countries use unsafe recycling methods and that release toxic chemicals into rivers, soils, and air. This pollution harms ecosystem, wildlife, and the health of the local communities.
And now I'm going to explain to you the impacts of e-waste toxic leakage in Thailand from different aspects, which are social, economic, and also environmental. As from the social aspects, many workers in informal recycling sectors are actually exposed to the hazardous materials without proper protection. And the continuous exposure to toxic substances can actually affect their health and also reduce the quality of life, especially for the workers and nearby communities. And now from the economic aspect, even though informal recycling is said to be cheaper because it relies on low-cost labor and avoid expensive pollution control costs, it is actually inefficient in the long term. Besides, Thailand also face high transportation and logistic costs because e-waste is transported long distance between collection, dismantling, and also recycling site. In addition, valuable materials such as gold, copper, and lithium are not fully recovered, which can cause loss of potential revenue and economic value. And lastly, from the environmental aspect, unsafe recycling methods can actually cause a large-scale pollution and toxic leakage, which could affect the ecosystem of Thailand. Harmful chemicals can contaminate the air, soil, and water, which could also threaten the wildlife, aquatic life, and also biodiversity.
For Nigeria, from the social aspect, toxic leakage causes serious health problems among workers and surrounding communities. People exposed to toxic chemicals may suffer from respiratory diseases, skin irritation, and even poisoning due to long-term exposure to hazardous substances. From the economic aspect, the informal recycling sector does provide income opportunities for many people. However, the work is usually unsafe, unregulated, and poorly monitored. This can increase healthcare costs and reduce workers' quality of life in the long term. Lastly, from the environmental aspect, unsafe recycling practices such as burning and illegal dumping contaminate the soil, air, and nearby plants. Toxic substances released into the environment can damage ecosystem and affect public health. Overall, e-waste toxic leakage creates serious negative impact on social, the economy, and the environment in Nigeria.
Therefore, there are few recommendations to overcome the issues.
For the first part of our recommendation to overcome the issue of e-waste management, I will discuss the developed country, which is the United States. The US use federal guidance, state laws, and recycling programs to manage e-waste. The EPA encourage people to recycle or donate old electronic devices instead of throwing them into a normal trash. Some states also have landfill bans and producer responsibility law, while certified recyclers such as R2 and Stewards help to ensure a safer e-waste handling. However, there are still some weaknesses in the system. The US still does not have a one strong nationwide e-waste law, so regulations are different in every state. Besides that, many electronic devices still end up in landfill and cause pollution due to toxic materials such as lead and mercury. Public awareness about proper e-waste disposal is also still low. To improve the issue, the United States should introduce a stronger national e-waste law so that all states follow the same regulations and disposal procedures. This can help create a more organized and effective e-waste management system. Manufacturers should also take a more responsibility for recycling old devices and reducing electronic waste. In addition, the government should provide more recycling centers and collection points to make disposal easier for the public. Awareness campaigns through school, social media, and public programs are also important to educate people about the dangers of improper e-waste disposal and encourage a safer recycling practices.
Okay, now let's look at the e-waste management in Thailand as a developing country. So for existing measures, Currently, Thailand has a few foundational initiatives in place. The initiative were National E-Waste and WEE Strategic Plan. It was managed by their Pollution Control Department. This provides systematic guidelines for managing electrical waste and give proper framework for e-waste management. So for another initiative were Public Drop-Off Point, where they place the dedicated collection bin in public areas like mall and office for easy drop-off of the devices that the public are no longer want to use it. Now for the limitation of the existing measure, which is the first one is lack of legal enforceability, because current strategies are just framework. There is no legally binding dedicated WEE law to mandate the enforcement. So for the second one is failure of voluntary system, which is strategic guideline lack of mandatory EPR, which is extended producer responsibility. It will result in low compliance and very low formal recycling rates. So for the last one is ineffective collection point, which is public drop-off bin are heavily underutilized because consumer prefer selling e-waste to the informal sector to getting a quick cash. So now for a recommendation for improvement, for long-term policy improvement, a few recommendations has been recommended. So the recommendation were enact WEEE legislation and EPR, which is pass the dedicated WEEE Act to hold producers legally accountable for their product life cycle. So the next one is strict border control, tighten custom to block illegal foreign e-waste smuggling. For the next one is infrastructure and also health monitoring, which is invest in safer extraction technologies and monitor health in high-risk recycling communities to prevent toxic poisoning.
Next is regarding the less developed country, which is Nigeria. There are few elements in this recommendation. First of all is the existing measure. The existing measure in Nigeria is there is a regulation in 2011 which is called National Environmental Regulation, where it focuses on prohibiting importing and also exporting non-functional electronics. Another measure is also regarding the EPR, which is Extended Producer Responsibility, and another measure for the public to do is by designing a collection center, but the collection center is only in Lagos State, and this is a center where it is focusing on disposing e-waste only. So, based on this existing measure, there are few limitations to this. First of all, regarding the regulation, there is weak enforcement and also inconsistency by the government. And second of all, the EPR, which leads to the low producer compliance, where manufacturers and also producers do not fully meet the expectation and they do not fully participate in this EPR objective. Next, other than that, regarding the collection center, because it is only built in Lagos State, there is limited accessibility to where people want to dispose the e-waste properly, and it is inconvenience for other people other than Lagos State to fully participate in this objective of disposing e-waste properly. Therefore, there are few recommendations for improvement for this existing measure. For the regulation, the government should actually strengthen the enforcement of the regulation, and the EPR, there should be government encouraging the manufacturers and also producers to actually invest in the local technology of disposing e-waste properly. And for the people or the community, the government can provide financial incentive where when they dispose the e-waste properly, they can gain award, or they can gain reward, or they can contribute to the country by providing incentive.
So in conclusion, e-waste issue had become one of the major problems that happened across the entire world. Most of the country had implemented various ways to overcome e-waste problem. It will be implemented whether directly or indirectly through different initiatives, policies and awareness programs. This effort shows that countries are taking serious steps to reduce the negative impact of e-waste on the environment and human health. However, continuous improvement and stronger cooperation between government, industry, communities are still needed to ensure that this problem can be managed more effectively in the future.